Hello everyone. So today we're going to look into the creation of a blogging application using Django. So what this presentation is about is just gives a basic introduction about what Django is, how the Django architecture is, and then we take a sneak peek into how models are created in Django. So what's Django? Django is what you would describe as a full stack web framework because it includes all the functionality you need to build a fully functional web application. Now it differs from micro frameworks. So an example of a micro framework is Flask. Flask doesn't come with everything that you need. So sometimes if you're trying to build a Flask application, you need to include several different libraries to accomplish different tasks. But Django comes with all batteries included. Django follows an MVT architecture, which is similar to MVC, where the M stands for the model, the V stands for the view, and the T stands for template. Now, this architecture helps in the separation of concerns when building an application. So the model just deals with handling the database, the view handles the request and response objects. So in a web application, you can have different requests and how this request to be handled. While the T stands for templates, which is the way the data is going to be represented in the HTML page. But this presentation is just concerned with the end part of it. And if you're following from your IDE, you can install Django using pip install Django command. Right now we are in the Django 3 series. So I don't know, in the future that might change, but as of right now, we're just in Django 3. Okay, moving on. Before you build any application, you want to ask yourself, what do you want to achieve with this application? What is it going to be able to build? So first and foremost, we want the ability to log users in and out of the blog. We want we want super users with elevated privileges to be able to add categories to the blog. So let's say it's a blog where people can come in and register. We want a case where the super users, someone with a super user privilege can decide, okay, I want to add a category on cars, I want to add a category on technology, I want to add a category on fashion. We want super users and regular users to be able to create, read, update, and delete blog posts. That's called the CRUD operations. We want regular users to the blog to be able to add comments to the blog post. We want super users to be able to approve comments. So when people come to the web application and they come to add a comment, we don't want the comments that is added to appear immediately on the web page. So we want a case where when comments are added, admin user or a super user can come and approve or disapprove comment. Once that comment is approved, it's going to show on the blog post. We want visitors to the site to be able to send contact messages to the admin users. Maybe they want a writing gig or something. This chart just shows the application overview. A Django project is made up of several apps. In the case of the blog app, the apps are the accounts app, the pages app, and the blog. So what's a Django app? Django apps are Python packages which carry out a specific task. So if we look at this, for example, the accounts app handles creating the user model, login and logout functionality, and things related to the user model. The blog app handles creating a blog post, updating a blog post, deleting a blog post, and retrieving a blog post. While the pages app is, in this case, optional, but we're going to do it just to show you how it can be done. And it's going to handle some of the static pages, like the contact page, if there's an about page, pages like that will be handled using the pages app. So every Django app has, as of Django 3, right? So it might change in the future, But every Django app has this basic Python file. So you have the admin, the apps, the models, the tests, and the view. And Django apps are created using the Django admin start app, followed by the name of the app you want to create. And we'll show you how this can be done when you choose to write code. The models file in the Django apps handles the database models, like the tables that are going to be in your database. Remember, your database is simply a collection of tables. The admin Python file, what that does, it allows you to dictate how your models will be rendered in the admin interface, because Django comes pre-installed with an admin user interface, which really makes it awesome to get up and running very quickly. The tests Python file handles tests for each Django app. So testing is something that is done in software development, where you write a function, you write tests for that function to make sure that the function actually does what it's supposed to do. Now the views file handles the requests and responses for each application in a Django project. So for example, an example of a view could be create a blog post in the blog app. It could be delete a blog post in the blog app. So we're going to see all of this in code. I just wanted to have this presentation first so that we can get to just writing code, and we would have gotten some of the fundamental building blocks packed down first. So what are models and what are forms in Django? Models represent real-world objects in a web application. For example, a blog article is represented by a model. Models in Django are represented by classes in Python, with attributes representing the different fields in the model. So if you look at the image on the right, you can see that's a class with the name post. That post represents a blog post, and it inherits from the model class in Django. I'm going to show you how that's done. Now you can see the attributes of that class, things like the ID, title, category name, picture location, body, timestamp, published, and month of year, right? Things like that. This is just a sample of what a model looks like in Django. You can see that those attributes correspond to different fields in Django. Okay, so for example, if you look at the title, it's actually a character field represented by a char field. If you look at the ID, it's an auto field, so it's a field that's created every time a new entry is added to that particular post table. If you look at the timestamp, it's a date time field, so it's a field that represents date and time in the database. Talk about what models are. Models are just sitting in the database, right? They represent information in the database. But for you to get them in there, you can either do it programmatically, which of course is what you're going to do, or you can render a form, a simple form which collects some of this information. And we're going to see all of this. Now I want to talk about the Django user model. A user model represents the users of a web application. So by users, we mean people that have login capability. Django comes pre-shipped with a user model, but we're not going to be using this pre-installed user model for this particular series. The reason is because for you to use the pre-built user model, you need to, while you're logging in, you need to provide username and password. But for us, we want to be able to log in with an email and password. And so that's why we're going to be changing that pre-built. And I'll show you how it's done. We're going to use the custom user models by using certain classes in Django. So this just shows the class declaration of a custom user model. It inherits from two other classes in Django, so the abstract base user and the permissions mixing. So you can see the attributes capture the kind of information we would want to get from a new user that is trying to register with the site. So things like the first name, the last name, the email address. So those are the basic things, and also the password. Now the password field isn't shown here because it's already inherited from one of the classes that we inherit from, and that's the permission mixing class. Now I want to talk about model managers in Django. Django models are controlled by manager classes, and they are commonly known as objects. The manager class has functions which create an abstraction layer which allows the user to interact with an SQL database in pure Python. As an example, if we're to retrieve all entries from a table in our SQL database, maybe for example the post table, we would use the expression below. We're going to use posts.objects.all. The post represents a table in our database. The object represents the model manager, and the all is a manager function. Okay, enough of talk. Let's just write some code. Thank you.